listening to the Deadly Uncle Podcast,
a safe space for Deadly Uncle conversations.
All right, here we are with season 2. We have Eugene, who's on the road from Alexis. He's on the road, and I've seen this man in many, many different communities. He's one of our treasured knowledge keepers. His voice is absolutely top notch. I got to see him sing and perform yesterday in Onaway, and it was an honor to hear his words, his wisdom. And like I said, his voice is amazing. And he whispered in my ear as he was leaving yesterday. He said, I actually sing a lot of country music. I sing rock music. I sing all different styles of music. I don't just sing with the drum, as he said, but he's got so much knowledge. I loved his words. He was talking about, protecting our language and so much more. Without further ado, Mr. Eugene.
Habostik Kutsawa, Eugene Alexis Magabuat, Wakamne Daha Chigibamit, Wakamne Dawatichat, Piwaginat ne Waachin Makumne, the Tochpanchin Chawashid, Pishwat, Idutozach or Umage Imageptra, Idu Misha Uchaugiwan, Kanuskan Tabagay Amne Washtigas as Iskeha I amne kam was de wanamat. Iskeha tui amne. Ichubos iginop gishta ein. Tui amne. Wakai abi kumne. Iginab gishta ein. Sitin ipjamat mish. Tanoskan tabagay amne ikamye igishapcha chokemat. Okadita. Asi chaga ne umay hobne. Piwaginat mish. Isnishi tigabit. Hello, my name is Eugene Alexis. Thank you for inviting me onto your podcast. I'm just a language helper from our community, but I love to sing and I love the arts. I sing and I paint, and I come from a singing family, and I said in my own language that it's good to talk English, but we should take back our language. Our language is important. And God gave us our language. The Creator gave us our language. We should use it. And it's nice that they asked me to talk. I wish I can talk in my own language.
Amazing. That's amazing. Growing up, did your parents speak the full language?
Yes, my mom and my dad both spoke Stony Nakota. And that's how we're raised. And the rest of the language you get from the neighborhood when playing with the kids and hanging out with the uncles and aunties.
When did you start singing? Did you start at a very young age, just along with the rest of your family, and you just joined in, and that's how you learned the traditional songs?
I started singing when I was around 6 or 7 years old. I sang with my brothers and my sisters. My dad had a big drum, and we used to sing together.
And are the songs that you sang, are they traditionally from your family? Are they ceremonies that are connected to your family, or where did the songs come from?
Yes, a lot of the songs are community songs and old tea songs, old round dance songs, powwow songs. My late dad was a composer and a drum maker. My late dad made a lot of songs in his time, and we used to sing all my late dad's songs and some of the old songs of the community too. Some of the honor songs, treaty songs, and ceremonial songs. Yeah.
And growing up near the mountains, did you get to enjoy, getting to know like some of the, spots, like traditional spots? I guess nobody would know, but I guess the Stony people. Tell us about your journey with the land.
Well, my journey, I was raised in the community of Alexis. I went to school from Alexis, and we went to our local community high school there in Onaway, Alberta. I graduated in Onaway, Alberta, and then I moved to Calgary to go to post-secondary education. When I moved to Calgary, that was my first time in a big city living by myself, and I kind of got lost a little bit. I got into I got lost and had to find my way back. But my late dad brought me home the summertime, and he said, "Yeah, we're going to get back to the way things used to be." And my late dad was a big part of me getting back on the red road and finding myself. We went to the mountains with my brother. My brother had a drum group, and we went to the mountains and we fasted in the mountains. That's where my adult journey started, was the fast in the mountains. And then after we finished our fast, we headed out on the Powwow Trail, and then we drove around. A lot of powwows, a lot of traveling. And back then, traveling was pretty tough because we didn't have the money, and a lot of times when you powwow, you don't always win, or when you're joining competition powwow, you don't always win money, and times were hard. We used to eat bologna sandwiches with salt and vinegar chips.
Yum! You're making me
Traveling
hungry.
around. That's that my early 20s. That's I'm telling stories on, and we powwow quite a bit, and then we round dance. We round dance quite a bit, and we traveled a lot of places. But the drum saved me, so it's a good story. I'll never change it. If I was to live it again, I'd live it just the same way. That drum helped me out. The drum helped me find my way, find my calling. I had a gift in the singing, and the drum helped with that. So I felt real good about that, and we love to sing and we love to chant, and yeah. When my late dad left, I started to make songs, and the Creator blessed me with songs. I prayed to the Creator for songs, and the Creator blessed me with songs, and I was fortunate enough to make some songs, and we sang those songs on the trail, and we had a good time doing that.
When did you start getting into, with your community to protect that language and to get that going? And is there programs that you know of, that are not online, that are in person, where people can go and learn, the language?
Well, that's where you have each community is different, right? So each community is based on the community and the culture of the community. So each language program in each community is different. We don't uh, we don't compare, or it's not a race or a contest. It's all about learning the language at the community speed. But for me, I got into the language program 1991, 92, 93. I started helping out at the school, and yeah, after that, there was no turning back. So I started really focusing on helping out with the Stony Nakota language.
Wow, and I seen that some of the new ways that people are learning is through these apps, right? They go to the apps and they can punch in, something that's in English, and then it says it in a language. I wonder if there's one for all of our indigenous languages, but I think I seen one for Cree and also the Blackfoot language.
Yeah, there's a lot of resources online. There's a lot of resources that you can get off YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, but it's up to the individual. If the individual wants to learn, the individual will learn. And reading and writing is a big part of it. So when you write it down on paper, that's where the action is, right? The action is when you're writing it down. So you're not only looking at it, but you're saying the word and then you're writing the word. So it's you're learning it three different ways, and that makes it more beneficial that way. That's why I promote reading and writing, or orthography, even syllabics for that matter. Syllabics is making a big comeback in Indian country too, so I think that's important. And yeah, whichever way you could learn your language is the way you should do it.
Do you
And just
think?
start speaking, just start talking. One of the things I did in my house was I started naming all the appliances in the rooms and the utensils, the kitchen stuff, the door area, the bathroom, the bedrooms, the living room. I just start hanging up uh, words, and you know, my wife thought I was crazy, but I was trying to teach my kids.
I've heard other people do that too. Like, I work for a radio station, and we have what they call the Cree Chatter Hour with Fawn and Dallas, and they're always talking about putting, even on their forks and knives and spoons, things that you use every day. So then the language, you get reminded of what that word is every time you go to use it, right?
When you read it, it gives you an outlet, but where we want the children to be, or where we want the kids to be, is to start speaking it. So reading it is cool, it's a good helper, but speaking it is where we want the kids. So putting the action into it, putting the work into it, uh, routine, repetition, so you say it clearly, your pronunciation is good. You start talking in the language and you're pronouncing your words accordingly. That's where it's at, and that's where the kids have to go.
And also one of the things that I guess we got to think about too is how we received our English names. There's a lot of, I think, like indigenous people walking around with English names that might not represent truly where their people come from or the ceremonies of their people.
A lot of people are going back to the old way of thinking and going back to the ceremony and going back to the lodge. And yeah, kudos to them for doing that, because that's where you find your inner self, your indigenous self, and that's where your pride kicks in, your your red nation, and you start feeling good about yourself, and you don't look down at yourself. These Indian names help with that. Your Indian name is way more powerful than your English name or your Christian name. Your Indian name actually uh, is designed around your caricature, the character that you are, and your behavior. So your name is really bound to you and your tribe, and that's how they know you, and that's how they see you. So yeah, it's important to know that, and it's important to go to that too. So kudos to them that are starting to do that, and a lot of young people are starting to go back to the ceremonies and also the rites of passage when they do that. It's a good thing.
Many of our nations have lost souls in a lot of the urban centers. Like yourself, you went there, you felt lost, and you eventually had to go home. But there are more indigenous people in the cities now than most home communities. So for those lost people out there, how do you see us bringing them back home and getting them healthy from all the trauma that they're living through or they're putting themselves through while they're on the streets?
In Nakota, you say wakana, wakantanahozi yohabne, wakane, wakantanahozi nikuwad, wakani gagajawad, wakan wo shodashi ni gagajawad. That's what we say. So the Creator made you, the Creator designed you, the Creator gave you gifts, and the Creator gave you free will. The Creator loved you so much that He gave you free will. You can do whatever you want, and hopefully, the Creator hopes that you talk to Him and you pray to Him. So, if my advice would be, your first step in recovery is to go back to the Creator. Wherever, whichever city you are or whichever town you're in, if you feel lost and you feel abandoned, and then you're into drugs and alcohol, your first step should be to go back to the Creator and want to go back to the Creator. That's your first step. And then after you dry yourself out, then you might think about what would be best for you. And then if that means going back to your home, going back to your community, then so be it. But it's all about reconnecting yourself, mind, body, spirit, and heart. Reconnecting yourself to the Creator and finding your way out. That's what I would suggest.
We're seeing centers pop up, all around Alberta here. Most recently, there's one in Fort Edmonton where they're going to start holding ceremonies right inside the city, where they've made a special safe space where they can do sweats, where they can do indoor and outdoor ceremonies. And we're seeing these pop up. Also, there's one, I think, being built in Red Deer where they're going to have a space for Indigenous people to have a space to pray for those ones who don't really have somewhere to go into the land. They don't really know, but they're creating these spaces inside the city. Do you think it's important for every major city across Turtle Island to have these centers start to come about?
Well, if we go back to the beginning, North America belongs to the indigenous, the First Nation, the Indians, and we were here since time immemorial. We need to remind the people around us about that. We've been here from the beginning. God, our Creator, put us here, and we need to first and foremost let everybody know that. I think it's a nice touch that they do that, and I think it's a good start for truth and reconciliation. But again, uh, God is in your heart and in your mind and in your soul. You don't need to go to a place to find God. God is right where you're standing. So the Creator is with you right where you're standing. You don't need to go way far away to find God, or you don't need to go to these places. I think it's good that we do ceremonies. Don't get me wrong. It's important that we continue ceremonies. But finding God is just building a relationship with God and to talk to the Creator like you're talking to your best friend, and ask God for help and for signs, and ask God to give you signs that if this is from you, can you keep it in my mind? Or if this is from you and you're talking to me, please tell me that 3 times so that I know it's from you. And the Creator will tell you, your spirit will tell you. So, but these ceremonies are designed for us to stay healthy, and these ceremonies are designed to find out who you are as an indigenous person, and for people to find themselves as an indigenous person. They should go back to those ceremonies and help out. You work your way from the outside, you work your way in. First you're chopping wood, and then you're hauling water, and then next thing you know, you're starting to carry more responsibilities, and next thing you know, you're sitting with the pipes, or you're sitting at the sacred bundle. So you you start from the outside of the circle and you work your way in based on how many years you put into recovery. And by the time you're done and you're an elder, you'll be right where the bundles are, or you'll be doing the singing at the lodge.
I think that's also like when we hear our women, that are at the round dances and, different places where there is the drum. A lot of times I hear our women say, "Oh, I feel like such a healing." And, I've been, as you said, the drums have been calling. I've been wanting to feel the vibration and just feel that positive energy.
The drum has a way to call you. That the drum tells you. It's not as if you pick the drum. The drum will sometimes pick you, and the drum will let you know. And same thing with around us, the trees, the 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 rocks, the mountains. I was at a meeting where they were trying to rename a mountain or a place, and one of the elders spoke and he said, you don't have to rename look for a name for the mountain. The mountain will tell you the characteristics of the mountain, and the way the mountain looks will tell you what his name is. So some of us believe in that way of training too. So when God calls you and God tells you to do these things, you have to help. As a lead singer or as a singer or a drum holder, if God calls you to help, you have to go help.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a musician and I come from a family of musicians. My grandfather was a fiddle player. My dad was a singer, a guitar player. I sing, I write songs. And I've always said that to people that you don't choose music, it chooses you. So I love the way you described how the drum calls to you and you have to serve it, right? Like that's a similar way of thinking that I treat music as well.
I think that's also like when we hear our women, that are at the round dances and, different places where there is the drum. A lot of times I hear our women say, "Oh, I feel like such a healing." And, I've been, as you said, the drums have been calling. I've been wanting to feel the vibration and just feel that positive energy.
My brother Arnold Alexis came up with a phrase to say, the drums are calling. And yeah, my brother used to say that all the time. And next thing you know, everybody's saying it. So yeah, so when the drum calls you, you get up and dance or you come and help sing.
I just want to say that you are a deadly uncle, and you made season 2 what it is. I think it's really, really important to talk to many, many different people, and especially somebody who knows knowledge about language, about drums, about dancing. And we're all just learning. We're all on this planet just learning, and this podcast was created for us to be able to have a safe space and a healthy conversation. And so we just want to thank Eugene for being on this season, season 2 of the Deadly Uncle podcast. Eugene, you're a wonderful uncle and somebody that's a treasure to the community, and keep up the wonderful work and the language journey and giving that to our next generation. Hi.
You're listening to the Deadly Uncle podcast.
All right, everybody. Well, that's a wrap on season 2 of the Deadly Uncle podcast. We've had 20 podcasts, 19 interviews. We did the very first podcast ourselves just to kind of reintroduce what we're doing here. I want to say thank you once again to Eugene. I mean, it was a great way to end the season. Now, Curt, you got any closing thoughts on what we've done so far this year?
It's just really a celebration of our Indigenous men healing. It's a celebration of us moving forward. Yes, there is still plenty of work to do, when it comes to healing. And, just like last season, I've been completely inspired by our men to be a better man. in my own community, to do better within myself as well. And just, to have somebody like Eugene finish off is a perfect way to cap it off, because, going back to the beginning, of our, healing, I think that looking at our language is a good start to finding out who we truly are, where we're truly from, and, some of those ceremonies. And, I'm just starting. I'm at the beginning stages of my own language journey. And, my mom is right with me, and one of the cool things that she said to me is that, turning 70 this year and learning some of her language, like when I call her, I'll say, Anin Shikwagin, and she'll say, Besikwan, and she'll say, Anin Shikwagin, and when we say goodbye, we say, Giawapa Min Minawa, which means I'll see you again in Soto. But she said that, learning her language and at the beginning of it really feels like her life has just begun, at the age of 70. So I really hope that I get to say those same words, when I'm that age. But yeah, it's been a wonderful experience, and I think that I've been inspired again.
There's a time that I never thought that I would see that age. Honestly, the way we grew up and the way I lived my life in my 20s and 30s, I wasn't necessarily, down and out, but I was knocked myself down many times with drugs and alcohol. It's a good thing I can bounce back pretty good, I'm getting good at starting over is what I always say. Yeah. So, no, these stories they're good in a way. Well, they're good in all ways, but in a way for me that they're good it lets you see that everybody is so much more alike than we are different. Like, we had different guests from every kind of job, and we had journalists, we had police officers, we had community members that were working with youth, we had elders. We had people that have lived on the street in the past, suffered with addiction. We tried to cover the whole spectrum of what it means to be an Indigenous man in Canada right now in 2023/2024. And seeing everybody's story didn't make me think about how much different we all are. It did honestly make me realize how alike we are. And for me, that I had a really cool experience in my building just yesterday. I was waiting to get on the elevator, and there was an older Chinese gentleman there, probably about, early 80s or whatever. And the door opened, and I wanted to let him in first, because, you let the elder walk by, and he pushed, he couldn't speak English, obviously, but he just kind of waved me in. So I went in, and I pressed my floor. I pressed number 4, and he looked there, and he pointed at 4, and he goes like this, and I shook my head yes. But I had this encounter with somebody from another culture, another language, and we were able to connect with each other and communicate without language, just by looks and just by looking at each other in the eye, nodding our heads, and we were able to communicate in that way. And it showed me that we're not all that different. Like, just looking at somebody in the eyes is an act of kindness. And it's a way to talk with people without saying any words, because we can truly see who people are when we take the time to just look into their eyes, and just try to connect on, maybe, like, I'm not a real spiritual person, but maybe that is connecting on a spiritual level in a way, without language, because you're able to communicate your feelings, what you're trying to do. And I mean, of course, we made signs or whatever, but we didn't. And trust me, it wasn't sign language. It was just like motions.
Motions. Yeah.
But it kind of made me think about how as Indigenous people, we were able to trade with nations all across Turtle Island. And those first encounters, how did we communicate, and how that developed into some kind of, like Plains Cree Sign Language, or Plains Sign Language. It wasn't Plains Creek, because all these tribes of the Plains used it. And they developed a way to communicate without verbalizing their words. And to me, that's a huge jump forward in my mind, just to be like, we can connect on another level. We can, understand people, even though by looking at them, we think they're different, but we're not all different. We're all human. We all love, we all fight with our spouses, our friends, our family. We share moments of joy and pain together. And I think once we were all able to realize that, I think we can move forward in all of our cultures in a more positive way, because we know there's war going on in the world. We hear about it every day. We know the country to the south of us is divided in half, and they don't know which way they're going to go. But if we can just start connecting human to human, I think things will become more clear.
Yeah. It becomes really simple when it becomes, and like you said, those connections with the eyes, with my father passing away and seeing, him in the hospital. He wasn't able to talk, but we did talk through the eyes. Yeah. We did talk and have some conversations and gestures, when he couldn't talk. And you really, like you said, you get to know how you can connect that way, and how it's important to pay attention to each other, because you might miss out on something if you don't take the time to be able to experience each other. Like you said, it's about celebrating each other, and that's what I truly believe is that there is a connection, not only with the Indigenous people that are here, but the Indigenous people across the world. And even we're starting to, I think, evolve in a way when it comes to the word Indigenous as well. You look at the Celtic drum, from the Irish people. It's a very, very similar drum to our round dance drum, to our drum as Indigenous people here. And when you listen to their music, with the fiddle and the drum, and I got a buddy named Logan Gray who plays the spoons in Edmonton right now, and he's a part of this Celtic group. And I said to them, I consider you music Indigenous. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you may not have the color of someone who's Indigenous, but this music is Indigenous.
But see, that's looking from our Western perspective, though, too, because there are Indigenous people that are fair-skinned. Yes. In Finland and in Ireland. There were actual Indigenous clan-like people that lived there before the British came in and colonized it. Yeah. And that happened in other areas too. Like I'm not an expert on everything Indigenous, but there are Indigenous peoples of all colors. There's African people that are Indigenous to their land, and their culture is Indigenous culture. And there's drums that are connected to all these Indigenous cultures because it's a part of who we evolved from. Like that's where, I'm not saying that we're evolved past the drum, but it was part of becoming who we are today. Mm-hmm. So I think, it's been, there's been so many things, like so many of the guests that we talked to where, a new light bulb turned on or made me think about something in another way. And I think that's what people talk about when they're talking about decolonizing your mind, is being able to think about things not from a Western perspective, but maybe realizing that even though we're in these modern times, the way our ancestors thought and believed are applicable to any time. And if we can find ways to incorporate that thinking in modern times, we're going to get to where we need to go quicker. Yeah, I agree. Well, I think my last comment on this, on this season here is, it goes back to the
the story of having that balance, the medicine wheel, to be in that circle, you need healthy females and you need healthy males. And when you get into that circle, nobody is more important than each other. We are equal when it comes to that. And I know in a lot of our belief systems that it was the woman who gave the man the drum, because we don't have that connection to the spirit world, through having children. That was our connection, is through the drum and giving us that drum and being able to pray directly to the Creator. And so, I truly believe that it goes back to that balance, and this is a wonderful place and a celebration, I think, of our Indigenous men, and a safe space to have that healthy conversation. And I also, why I'm bringing up our women is because we did just have International Women's Day, yesterday, I believe it was, and we're shooting here on Saturday. So I want to give a shout out to all of our women that might be listening here today. We love you. We send our gratitude out to you. And we are following in your pursuit of healing. And thank you so much for listening to all the men and women out there. Hi.
The last thing I'd like to say is I brought up eye contact and connecting with people for a reason, because it's something that we've lost over the years. I think in a lot of our community is suffering. A lot of our community is still in pain. And a lot of them don't get treated as though they're human anymore when they live on the streets. And my experience working with people experiencing homelessness, the kindest thing you can do is look somebody in the eye and acknowledge them. And that sometimes is a help that they need to maybe move themselves forward to start thinking about healing. Because, somebody does recognize that I'm here, I'm human, I may be in pain, I may be in trauma, but I'm still someone. And if we can see people like that, maybe we can help more people in our community to reconnect with themselves, then to their culture, then to their community, and find their way to living a better life. And that's what we want for all our people. We know people aren't going to change overnight, but every time we take a step forward, we're walking away from the things that are holding us back. And even though it's hard, we have to keep trudging through, because that's just the way it is, right? All the good things in life you got to work for.
You do, 100%.
Well, let's each sing a song to end this thing off. I know we got an interview in 5 minutes, so let's keep it short. Wow.
Keep it short, eh?
Or just do something, just sing something for people. We'll each do half a song.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good. Nice guitar, by the way.
I like it.
This is fire, the bomb.com. It's popping. On fleek, no one's triggered. Dropping truth, Ace is wild. My babe. Call instead of jigs next time. Everybody sing, living our best life, living our only life, living our best life, living our only life.
Good job, man. I wanted to grab that guitar for you. I thought you were gonna drop it. I was like, it's fairly new, bro. I don't want it to hit the ground.
I was holding it up.
Well, since the capo's where it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so for me, I'm going to do a song. I just recently recorded an album of songs that my dad wrote. My dad is pretty much responsible for me finding the gift of music and helping me develop it too. So this one's for him. You know, I've traveled all around. Guess it's time I'd settle down. That old highway took a piece of me, the part that wanted to be free. I've been down most every road. Lord knows I carried a heavy load. All the roads seem to lead to you. Now that my traveling days are through. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Deadly Uncle Podcast. Season 2. And if you want to see Season 3, let us know and send us a donation. No, I'm just kidding.
If there's any sponsors out there, we are looking for sponsors for Season 3.
That's right. But wait for this summer. Season 2 is coming soon.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Deadly Uncle Podcast.
A safe space for Deadly Uncle conversations.